welcome to one of our next webinars, and tonight it's all about frozen semen. And so we're expelling all the myths. You can see this is what it's all about, is how we freeze semen. We're just doing a bit of an overview of how the frozen semen works. So tonight, as always, we've got NAF. We've got a sponsor, and NAF is our sponsor tonight, so really appreciate that. Thank you very much for sponsoring us tonight. And they're giving away a bit of a goodie bag today for one lucky person who's joined us tonight. And they're actually giving away a 5-tub, if you look on here, of 5-star fertility tonight, which is a great fertility supplement. Also, they're giving away a goodie bag of NAF showing range of products. So what more could you want to make your horse look all sparkly and your stallion extra fertile? So that's going out to one lucky person. So tonight we're sort of making the most of making freezing semen available for everybody, and really, whether it be hobby breeders or something, you know, some actual obviously professional breeders and competition people out there. But I certainly can't do this alone. It's and I've joined tonight, as we have been on many occasions, all the way from Germany. We've got our very own Bart Kools from Schockermollers. And if there's a person out there who there's nothing he doesn't know about freezing semen and stallions and all that side. So with his great experience, he'll be talking to us tonight. We've also got Desiree from Holland. So we've got an international crowd yet again. And she has over 20 years experience in the breeding industry, which is, you know, just those sort of experience and what she's been through adds so much weight to these webinars with the questions and so on. So it's great to have them here. As always, we usually have about 40 or 50 different countries. You know, send us in, give them a shout out. We'll give a shout out. Who's that?
Nigeria.
Oh, we've got already our first one all the way from Nigeria, as said hello, which is great. So give us a shout out. Thank you for your Nigeria. Hopefully, with the COVID sort of dying down a bit, we can start traveling. Maybe we can go to some of these places. We'd love an invite. I know Desiree, and I think Bart, you'd love to go over to some of these places as well, don't you? I think Bart, you travel all over the world doing this.
Yes. In 1 month, I've been for 14 days in Colombia. I've been in Mexico, so yeah, I make experience all around the world. So, and there you can see a lot and learn a lot. That's very good.
No, definitely. So we have always a great international support. Get your questions coming in. You know, we'd love to hear your live questions. If I can answer them, I will. If I can't answer them, I'll get Bart or Desiree to answer them. That's not a problem there. So all the awkward ones can go to them. But no, get them coming along. We want an interactive, fun evening. So get those. The charity tonight, every night, we try and do a charity when we run these webinars. And again, it's going to be Nature Safe, the charity that freezes tissue samples down for wild animals to stop them from going extinct. So if you enjoy tonight, if you can donate a £5, brilliant, really appreciate that. So we're going to talk about tonight, what is freezing semen about, the benefits, the challenges, how we freeze. So we're going to scoot around the lab and just give you a bit of an overview of how it works. And also then we're going to show you the freezing machine, and then we're going to nip upstairs and we've actually got a PowerPoint presentation. And I think it's really important when you freeze semen, you've got to understand what goes on in the freezing process to understand why it does work and why it doesn't work. So what about the freezing curves, ice crystals, really important. And also Pam's going to talk to us a little bit about that dreaded word, exports, especially at the moment, obviously with Brexit and things. So she's going to talk a little bit about the paperwork. So it's a real overview about shipping semen abroad and about our offers, many freezing offers that we have. So we do this mini freeze. Do you know how much it is, Pam?
£995 plus
£990 plus the VAT.
Yep, plus the VAT.
Plus the VAT for
up to 20 doses.
Up to 20 doses frozen, but we'll talk about that a bit later. So, right, let's start off. It's all about this stuff here. This frozen semen is suspended in animation. It's frozen down at minus 196 degrees. It can remain viable virtually indefinitely. How does it get there? So we're going to learn a little bit about this tonight, all about this freezing process. But frozen semen doesn't obviously just start in the lab. It starts out in the stables and doing the Stallion Management side. So we all think frozen semen, yes, we can only make it whether it's going to work good or bad in here in the lab, but it's really important, I think, to start off. So Desiree, I think really just to kick things off, because you've had so many years with Stallion, how important do you think it is when you're on the Stallion side, you know, the management side of a Stallion, how does that reflect, do you think, on the quality of the semen, whether it's going to freeze or not?
Oh, almost everything. Hello, everybody. But it's almost everything, really, because it's so important. The Stallion needs to be fit, needs to be energetic. He must be good in his body and feeling himself good. And the management is so important. And also collect them 3 times in a week for freezing, so the quality stays a little bit the same. And yeah, the management is everything. If everything starts always with the horse, always with the Stallion.
You're dead right. And the production of sperm takes about 56 days. So you've got to think what's happened previously can affect. And yeah. Bart, do you think, how much do you think stress plays a part in it, in the Stallion?
Oh, a lot, really a lot. I'm going so far that my opinion is, for example, sport horses. My opinion is the sport horses we should do for freeze, 1-2 months freeze and no sport, nothing at all, to keep them well, to keep them in the stable, quiet, everything fine. And then if you have frozen enough, then they can go on sport. They can do less collecting, so that you take this out of the Stallion. My boss, he wants to do both, but I think for the Stallion, it's better to make a part sport, a part freezing, maybe even a part only 3 months for fresh collection, but not everything on one time, because that's too hard for the Stallions. And that makes also stress, and then the quality goes down.
Yeah. I
have to say on this, because some Stallion really needs time for freezing. It's not that you send a Stallion away to the breeding station and you say, okay, I have a month, and in that month I have competition again, I need him back. Sometimes for some Stallion, a month is too short to freeze good quality of semen. Take the time for that. Yeah.
I think the more I learn about this, and I believe, and I think hopefully you'll all agree, we're still learning. We're learning all the time. Every day we learn about something different. I think stress is one of, not the biggest, but one of the biggest things that is underestimated when it comes to semen quality, and the problems you can't tell sometimes with that Stallion stress.
Yeah.
But anyway, we've got a few shout outs. I think we've just had somebody from, we've got USA. Anybody USA good watching tonight? Australia. Blimey, it must be a bit late for you. Good day, mate. And another one on the Barbie or whatever they say. And Mexico. So we've got, you know, really all over the world. So fantastic that you're joining us. So when we first get the semen, we bring it into the lab. As I say, this is an overview tonight. We've done a webinar all on actually how we process frozen semen. This is an overview, and we're going to expel some of the myths associated with frozen semen. So the first thing we always do is look under the microscope. We have a look to make sure that the semen's, obviously, as soon as we get that collection, that it's swimming around there. It looks like they've got an egg on there already by the looks of things. It's quite interesting. If you get an air bubble under there, the semen always congregates around it straight away and tries to sort of attach itself to that. So when we're freezing semen, we always want to do that first. The next thing, we always centrifuge the semen. We put a cushion on the bottom of it. So we tend to use, I know Bart, you sometimes use a slightly small amount. We use about 1 mil. We used to use 2 mils. We use something called OptiPrep. Do you use the OptiPrep, Bart, or do you use one of the, the other?
And even I heard on what you told me, for a few Stallions I can do with 0.2, but the most of the Stallions for freezing, it is like you do with 1 ml and take a little bit out, it's better.
Yeah.
To get more safe in the viability.
Yeah. No, I quite agree. And when we generally, I'm not too sure how you do it, Desiree, but we tend to mix the semen 1-to-1 when we're doing it, when we come in.
Yeah, it depends a little bit on the concentration of the Stallion. If the concentration is very high, I actually want to extend it 1-to-2.
Or
Yeah.
three,
So
Yes.
1/4 of, yeah.
even
One-
3 or 4. I
Yeah.
do also. Yeah,
Yeah.
me too.
But there's different extenders you can use out there. You know, INRA is a very common extender that people tend to use quite a lot of time. And we actually use an awful lot of this and find it works very, very well. Obviously, it's a milk-based extender, but when you centrifuge it, sometimes you can't always see the band. This is quality extender that Marika does. And the beauty about this is quite a clear extender. Is that right?
No, it's a totally clear extender, and it's actually very nice extender because you can after that you can extend with every kind of freezing extender, whatever you want, or even for fresh, you know, because there is no egg involved. And I really like that because I don't like to work with different kind of eggs because the bacteria depends. And this is a very clear extender, so you can see directly after centrifugation, see the pellets of the semen, and that's good. Actually, yeah, I really like it. Yeah.
But Desiree, I think, you know, you're hitting it. A lot of people are trying to get into do a bit of this freezing, and it's taking that cell band off, which is quite tricky. And this is where it helps so much because it's so clear, isn't it?
So it's very clear, and that's powder. What you see, you add there 200 ml of distilled water inside, or quality water. You shake a little bit. You put it for 30 minutes in the heater, and then you can use it. It's fantastic. It's clear, and yeah, you can use it for fresh as well.
You can use it for fresh, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Also,
I used this already for fresh, and we had also very good pregnancy in the Levit. And today I start with centrifuge for freezing stuff with this. Though we will see what the results are in the next 2 days, but I think it looks very easy. For work, it's very easy to use this extender.
yeah.
and all we do is we get our semen sample and we literally just pour it in. Obviously, with centrifuge, you always want to make sure it's 1-to-1. Sorry, it's balanced with 2 centrifuge tubes, and then we literally will put the. You might as well do it. Can you load it up for us, pal? And then we put the gradients on, and then we can spin it down.
Can I have the ultra please?
I'll do it. Yeah. Cool. Thank you. We just use these needles. I don't. Do you use the same sort of thing, Bart? I can't really remember.
Yeah. I think they are with a round head, huh?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. I use them.
I think they come from Germany, actually. These.
Yeah. I know they come from Germany.
Bit of German engineering. Yeah.
Oh God.
Voice dog technique or whatever you say. Yeah, my German isn't the best, so we literally put that on. And just for people that are watching here, I know we have a slightly different. We spin this semen out differently. We spin at 1,000 G, 1,000 times the force of gravity for 20 minutes. And the research is done saying that you actually recover about 95% of sperm cells when you do that. So you can see the band there. How fast do you tend to spin, Bart, when you do yours? You're also a bit faster, I think, don't you?
I do more. I do, but only in 10 minutes, and I take 1,500.
Yeah.
But only for 10 minutes.
And Desiree?
1,000.
1,000. Yeah.
1,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's very similar. So we spin that down. As I say, we did a whole webinar about the whole process, so we're not going to go through that. We take off the cell band, and then you have to resuspend. And when everybody does frozen semen, and so many people out there think, oh, yeah, we can just do that. It is quite a bit different than just handling chilled semen. There's a lot more degree of skill in doing it. But one of the main things that can help is different freezing extenders. And we've been developing our freezing extenders, and we do 2, one with a cryoprotectant in and one without. And it is really important to get the right cryoprotectant or the right freezing medium to suit that stallion. But we find this works on the majority of stallions. And the beauty about this, once it's mixed in there, you actually literally just chill it down for 20 minutes before you freeze it. And Desiree, you use this quite a bit at your place and have good results?
Yeah, I love it. I love it, really. I use it every week, actually. And so even some stallions, you know, if you sometimes think with your stallion you're going to freeze and you think by yourself, okay, the quality can be a little bit better or the viability must be a little bit better. Just, I only can advise, and it's not like I want to please you, but I only can advise, try the freezing extender from Tullis because it really makes a difference. I had one stallion who had more than 20% difference after post-haul with motility and the viability. So I really like this one.
Yeah, and I just want to say something, because we've got hundreds of people watching tonight, and everybody thinks this might be just an advert to sell yours,
Yeah,
to sell ours.
No,
but
the Stallion always decides.
I can promise you that I know Bart, what Bart is like, and I know what you sell. I would change tomorrow. If there's a better free, I would swap this tomorrow if there's something else, because we all want to have the best frozen semen out there. And I can promise you now, if we only put these out there because we firmly believe they're some of the best on the market. And I know, Bart, you're the first one to tell me if it doesn't work or does work, or if we give you a feed supplement, you know, and you know, you've had great results obviously with this as well, haven't you?
Yeah, the only thing I want to tell you, say you put the ingredients in on top. If you use this one with your protector, what's inside, they do slowly, not too fast. If you use a protector like glycerol, you can put on top 1 ml, 2 ml, 3 ml. It's not a problem. With this one, the results is much better if you do drop by drop and not too far. That's important. Otherwise, you get the wrong thing.
Yeah, we're going to talk a bit about that in our presentation upstairs. A lot today is going to be on the. We're talking about the two-step and how that comes into it, because it's really important that how you handle this frozen semen very, very carefully.
Yeah, but also even not if it's not two-step. Also, it's one step.
You just strip it in.
Yeah, exactly.
It's got to do with the osmotic pressure, isn't it? You know, because there's so many osmotic pressure inside. So that's why you have to do it dropwise. Otherwise, the cells going totally crazy. They think, oh my God, what's happening here? You know, if you go to a bar with a lot of alcohol, it's actually the same pressure as the cells has to go. Yeah, it's a little bit strange, different, isn't it? Yeah, you understand what I mean.
When you're drinking the alcohol, there's osmotic pressure. Is that where you end up falling on the floor? But I'm glad I haven't prompted you to say all this, and I have to say, a lot of the work that we're doing later, Desiree, you've hit the nail on the head. We are talking all about the osmotic pressure upstairs in a minute. So thanks for, I didn't realize you were going to say all that. So you've got to understand what goes on during the freezing process to why these freezing extenders work or won't work. So we centrifuge the semen for 10 or 15 or 20 minutes, depending what you're doing with frozen semen extender. Then the next thing we do is we print the straws. It's going to work. Hey, we're up and running now. So the straw printer, and you can actually, I don't know whether you can home in on that at all, but different places put different stuff on there. We can put 3 lines. You can't really see that, can you, or not? No, don't worry. It says win-win, I think, on there. It has the date on there, and it has us frozen. So all straws obviously have got to have printed and a certain bit of information on there. 1/2 mil straws. You know, we usually put about it varies how many straws we put into a mare, but to start with, we can get anything between 5 and 10 doses usually from a stallion, depending on the concentration. We'll come back to doses in a minute when Pam's going to thaw some out in a second. Other ways, we can fill and seal the straws once we've done them. So we literally, if you see here, if you go in there, Tian, you can actually see how once we've mixed it, that's it, and then they come out, and then we can show you, and they're crimped at the other end. So that's that. So they seal them, filled and seal them. Any questions coming through?
I really like that machine. I use it. I use it all the time. I think Bart does the same, but that machine is fantastic.
Yeah.
Printing, yeah.
Because do you get your straws pre-printed? Do you for Desiree or?
Yeah, we print it. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, it's cool. But and the other ways you can fill, and I don't know whether you can use these pumps quite easily. PVA powder. God, we used PVA powder many years ago, and actually when we go off center, we use it, and it actually works very well for many of the time. You can use these little ball bearings as well, so you can actually put these in the ends of the straws to seal them. They'll let me. Ooh, there we go. So you can actually seal the straws. So there's several different ways you can actually seal these straws when you're doing it. So the freezing process is, it depends what cryoprotectant you use, can be long or short. With the one that we use, it's about 25 minutes, we chill it. If you're using glycerol, it's usually about an hour and a half. If you're using glycerol, Bart, how long do you tend to leave your straws chilling for before you freeze them?
At least 3 hours, but most of the time about 1 hour.
Yeah. So,
So
sometimes
if I do 3 or 4 stallions, I do 3 stallions with glycerol, and then the last one I take with the DMF or the SIS, and then after that it's 20 minutes. So then the first one is maybe 1.5 hours, the other one is 1 hour, and then 40 minutes, and the last one 20 minutes, and then it can go for freeze.
Question. Okay, come on through. So once we filled the straws, like I was saying, you've got to give time for the straws to equilibrate, and then we put them in a freezing machine. This is a mini tube one called an ice cube. You can get different ways that you can freeze semen. You can either put them in a digital freezer and they go down at quite a slow rate, or you can put them on a rack actually, and we'll show you that in a minute, on a floating rack. Desiree, have you ever used a floating rack much?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
And it works well. I find it works well actually.
Yeah, it works well, but it works well on stallions with good quality of semen. And I have to say that, because if you have subfertile stallions and you want to make a difference in the quality, I really believe that a curve works a little bit better. But on the floating rack, if you have good quality of semen, you can use it, no problem at all.
And I think what we're learning tonight is, or we're just going through, so it's an overview. One of the biggest things we notice, every little bit helps with frozen semen. So if you don't quite have, if you, like Bart said, if you push the frozen, if you mix the freezing medium too quickly with the semen, it's not going to have a good effect on it. If you don't have the right collection techniques, if the stallion's not settled in the barn, all these add up and can make a massive difference whether a stallion is going to freeze or not at the end of the day. And it really does. It's every single little bit helps. When we go to places that see a freeze and they use the same protocol for every single stallion, there is so much else you can actually do. Do you change the freezing curves much? I must admit we don't, but do you change that much from stallion to stallion, Bart, or not?
No. That's I think if I have a stallion with a big problem that I cannot freeze, then I have to change to find out if it's possible to do. But normally I have one curve, and that is quite fast. Yeah. With a few steps on the typical temperature for the crystallization, but I think we will speak about this later. And then, but this curve, I think it's quite normal from big companies like EVN and Minitube. They make these curves almost similar, and that we use the most of the time. Yeah. And Desiree, do you tend to use one curve?
I only use one curve, and it's actually, you can compare with the curve from IMV, what Bart is using. Yeah, it's fast.
Yeah, I quite agree. We don't have to fix the one thing. We have done a few trials, but we even stack them up differently in here to see whether the straws at the top froze differently from the ones at the bottom. And actually, we didn't notice much difference either. So we tried that bit of work. So once the semen's frozen, it goes down to about minus 140 in these machines, and then we put it straight into liquid nitrogen, and then we can pop it in these tanks, and it can stay in these tanks for as long as you want with that. So that's the beauty about it. And these are all our shipping flats. So at this time of year, we're getting them all back. I think we've got about just under 100 shipping flasks now. I think that's right now, isn't it? We've got, yeah, it's up to 88. I think it's over 90 now, but different flasks that we've got. So that's just a very brief overview. But Pam's thawed some frozen semen out now. Have you thawed both lots out or one lot? You've got one more you can do. You've got one straw in there.
What's next straws?
So it might be a good idea just to see how you do it.
Yeah.
So the frozen semen is frozen down at minus 190. Is that your phone there? All right. Let's turn it down a bit more. I can hear myself thinking. Oh, we just have a few hellos. Hello from California, Norway.
Wrong.
One from Iran. Have we got any from the UK?
Sarah's watching.
Oh, yeah.
With Jim.
So we got, some from the UK, Australia, Sweden,
I have a
America.
question.
Yeah.
How do you decide which cryoprotectant is going to work with which stallion?
That's a very good question. I might hand that over to one of our panelists. How do you know which cryoprotectant to use with which one? I mean, Bart, what would you do on that?
I always start the first time with the stallion. If I start to freeze, make two parts. One part with the extender glycerol, one part with the extender DMF. And then after 2 days, if I tow it up, I will see which extender is the one the stallion likes. And then I will continue with this one he give me. The stallion tell me what I have to do.
Yeah. We've got a hello from Scotland. So that's from Aileen, I think, is it? My eyesight's terrible.
Yeah, Aileen.
Aileen. Hello, Aileen from
Hi.
Scotland. Right. So Pam's she thawed some out, but actually I think it's quite good just to see how quickly we can thaw this out and put it under the microscope. So, so if you can just follow that around. I didn't really introduce you. Pam's been with me for 10 years now. And Pam is we call her the Oracle because she knows just about every single stallion. There are about 1,200 stallions in the tank, so she just about knows where they all are and where they be exported to. But Pam's our lab manager, so there's everything on that side. So we literally get the straw out. We thaw it out at 37 degrees for 30 seconds. I presume you do it all the same, do you, Desiree?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's fairly unique. We did, or the same, not unique, sorry, it's fairly the same all over the world. We did look at some research, I think it's 7 degrees for 77 degrees at 7 seconds.
Yeah, that's the best way. But if you go 1 second behind that, then it's totally dead. This is the safest way. Please do this one.
Yes, it is. And then she dry it off, and then she'll cut one end and cut the other.
Oh, Pam, you have to show them what you put in the straw because that's so nice. Yeah, I use it all the time.
Desiree, you can use if you cut the end of one of those off.
Yeah, I know.
And it cuts down.
I didn't know that.
You know how expensive those needles are. I don't want to cut anything.
But nobody knows where these came from.
I have it from Tullis.
Yeah, well, it did, but they don't think they make them anymore. So,
Well,
so
niche market for that.
And just anybody's watching, if you want to learn anything about West Stand, we're all ears. We'd love to hear if you want us to put a webinar on dummy training a stand into a dummy mare or anything like that. We always want to know. We've got a really exciting one coming up in about I think beginning of November. We're talking all about freezing down tissue, and we've got some amazing lab here where we actually grow the tissue in the lab, the cells and that side of it from those tissue samples, and how it can help rare species. So this is a sample that we just, can you drop in there as well? So that's the frozen semen that we just stored out. Yeah, that's not bad.
I'd be very happy with that. Sorry.
So you'd be happy with that, would you, Desiree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Quality extender, quality semen.
Yeah.
Yeah, every time. So the other question we get asked quite a bit is about doses, and it's again, we're only going to touch on these things tonight because I think we've done a whole webinar all about doses, but it always comes up each time. Is how many doses should we put into that mare? You know, how should it be 1 straw? Should it be 10 straws? Should it be 3 straws? how, I mean, Bart, how do you sort of, because I think we may have different sort of views on how we work this out, but how do you sort of, what's your standard of trying to work out what's an insemination dose?
So normally my standard is, it was before 3 straws, because we said then if the vets outside get 3 straws, they don't try to do with 2 or 1, because then they have nothing more. So, but normally we do 3 or 4. If the viability, or if it's not looking too good before freezing. So if it's less than 70%, I will do 5 or 6. I know you do a lot at 6, but I look a little bit at the motility and the viability. If it's not that good, I go down to 5, 6, but normally I try to do 3 or 4.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I'll explain how we do ours, and that's 3 or 4 straws per dose. We'd just like to ask a poll question now. Sorry, Amy. And I forgot to mention, Amy's very much in the background. We've got Etienne, who's actually behind the camera, as always. So we've got the Amy really behind the scenes doing this. Amy, can you put on the first poll? And the first poll was, would you consider freezing your stallion semen now? Now you sort of learned a bit more about it. In other words, if you haven't frozen, would you consider doing that? You can put that up. Is that poll up? Or can you go back to that?
I want to answer one. Somebody wrote, you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yep.
Okay. So somebody wrote, if I was talking about throwing out the straws to have a look, at what time, if it's 24 hours. I prefer to do after 48 hours, because I think after 24 hours, they are not really finished. I did, normally I tried a few times with 24 hours, and then I did later the same, this from the same collection, one or 2 straws in 48 hours. And most of the time in 48 hours, they are finished, and they are quite a little bit better than in 24 hours.
Yeah.
I agree.
I'll just show you, I'll come back to that fact.
Question, that's why I'm telling you.
Yeah, I can see that on there. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. This is on the CASA system. So this is what's called a computer sperm analysis machine. It's a Hamilton Thorne machine, and it can actually track the semen, and it counts the sperm cells very, very quickly. So it's doing 5 fields, and it'll give us a result now. So it was just counted 470 sperm cells, 353 were progressive, and 268. So it's given 75 with a 57 progressive, and you can actually play these sperm cells back. That's got a bit of a bad blob on that one, but it can show you how the sperm tracks when you're doing this. Yeah, just going back to that, we do some initially on that day, and then quite often we'll do one maybe at the weekend or later on when we're doing our morphology and that side. Yeah, the rule of thumb is that the semen gets better, if that's right, a few days later. Is that what you're saying, Desiree?
No, it's actually I'm agree with Bart, because it's a little bit sometimes it doesn't make sense actually, because the metabolism is lying still under the 930. So above that, then everything is still. So it in theory, how do you say that? Theologically?
In theory, yeah, you've got it.
In theory, thank you. That doesn't say, okay, it doesn't matter, you can do it directly, but I agree with Bart. I do it also after 2 days, and there is something, I don't know why. Maybe it's a feeling, but I like it better to do it 2 days after.
Yeah. What's the poll, Pam?
Poll results are in.
Yeah, can you read them out?
Amy, can you put one? So we've got, have you previously frozen semen from your stallion? Yes, 55%, no, 21%, and 24% not applicable.
So we've got 21% of people out there that might be considering freezing their stallions, if I read that rightly. And again, we're not going to go through all the semen assessment. We did a whole webinar about this. Maybe we need to do it again, because I think, to be honest, it's one of the most important parts of, we can all freeze semen and we can all thaw it down, but if we don't analyze it right at the end of it, that analyzing is really what makes it, whether it says it's good, bad, or indifferent. Yes, going back to the straws, we generally do start with 6 straws. Just my school of thought on 6 straws is, where you get some semen, like you see this under the microscope here, that's flying around, that looks very, very good, but it doesn't always mean it's going to get the best results. So we tend to always do 6 straws per dose and a minimum of 250 progressively motile sperms. And if that gets good results, then we can drop it down to 5, 4, 3, and even in some cases, 1 straw on some of them. Right?
We've got lots of questions coming in. Amy, can you put through one of the questions?
Hello, yes. So one of the questions is, can the Stallion AI extender be exported to the USA yet? We're
working on it, and I think we're nearly there, aren't we, Pam?
Yeah,
so we're very close. You don't know about this, do you, Desiree? Can we tell them about this?
Yeah.
We're thinking about. We've been trying to put it in a powder form.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I know. We did the initial results were a lot better than we thought. So sorry, I haven't even discussed that with you yet, but yeah.
We get it's trial stage, Desiree.
Trial stage, so it's a total powder, and it's literally mix it with some deionized water, isn't it? And
and then away you go. So that's where we go with it.
We did the initial trials on that, and it was actually a lot better than we thought. So
yeah. And Amy, what's the next question?
So the next question is from Eleanor Goodwin, who says, have you been involved with any work freezing semen from other exotic equines, such as zebra or any other non-equine species for conservation projects?
Oh, God, I'll be here all night. That's the wrong question. Who's asked that one?
That was from Eleanor Goodwin.
Eleanor, good question. Yeah, we've done loads of different species.
Okay.
We've done an omega. Yes, we've done other equids. Obviously we're going to do a whole webinar about this. I think it's the 7th of November, but I'll let you know at the end of this, all about how we freeze exotic species semen down, tissue samples, how we preserve those. So yeah, that's
one to watch.
That's a big tip from Eleanor from me on that one. So now we've got the semen frozen, and we're going to go back with a PowerPoint, show you the issues associated with freezing semen down and why those issues may occur, the crystallization problems and things like that. But it's much easier to explain on a PowerPoint. I'm just making note of the time because I am determined we are not going to have a late one tonight. There's lots of other ways we can analyze semen. I don't know whether this is switched on just while we're here. We can use something called the iSperm, and this works, can give you some fantastic results. And this is actually all analyzing it through an iPad, and it's something called the iSperm. So again, that's something maybe for another night. I think we should do another one on semen analysis. Just when you've got this, I think it's important. The other part of it we said we're going to talk about, and I'm afraid I'm handing over to Pam on this. Once we've got the semen, is the exports, because frozen semen can be used for so many different things. And do you find is this your busiest time of year now, Bart, when it comes to freezing semen? And what do you think? Do you think semen freezes better in the winter than the summer, or not much difference?
I think the freezing time is coming now. After the summer, somewhere so October, November, that's the best time to start freezing. And the semen is more concentrate. It makes everything for the quality for sure is the best in this time, October, November, December of the year.
And absolutely spot on. In the summertime, you have more testosterone flowing around the stallion. They tend to give you larger ejaculates. They might give you 50 or 100 mils. And in that fluid, when a stallion ejaculates, there's seminal plasma fluids, and they can have a negative effect on the semen. That's why we have to spin it out and essentially off. So Bart, spot on. You tend to get a lower volume, but a higher concentrated product. And do you agree with all that, Desiree?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And even no gel, not that much gel in the wintertime. October, November, it's really, really good, because in June, I don't know why. I don't know, Bart, if you have the same or Tullis. In June, some stallions always produce a lot of gel. I don't know why. I have some stallions.
June. I think that has to do with the sun.
The sun. Okay.
I don't know. I think it's because we have stallions come here. We have a few thoroughbred stallions come here as well, and they sometimes produce a lot. When they're around a lot of mares, or they get that testosterone, I think they produce more gel on that. And when you take the mare away from that environment, they're a bit quieter. We find they don't produce so much gel. And we see them on a stud farm producing lots of gel. When they come here, when there's no mares here, the gel drops dramatically.
Yeah.
Okay.
I really believe that. But also, I think that it's different thicknesses of gel. So what you think, I don't mean you personally, but when you think there's no gel in there, that actually sometimes could be because it can go straight through the filter. So obviously there's different filters. So you get thick gel, thin gel, and sometimes you have to, that can be a negative effect. And that's why sometimes the open-ended AV, I think we should do one all about collecting and different collecting techniques again. That'd be quite good, open-ended AV collection. So yes. So no, you're spot on. But that brings me on to, at this time of year, we're starting to do exports. So Southern Hemisphere, the breeding season's pretty much finished in Europe or Northern Hemisphere, but now we did, I think, 2 big shipments to Australia. I'll pass this over to Pam. Pam, we'll just talk about where are we at, Pam, at the moment on exports, because it's am I right in saying it's easier to export to Australia than it is France?
Australia.
Nothing against the French, by the way, if we've got the French out there.
Australia's easy. EU's now got a bit tricky due to Brexit, but we're finding our way through it. There will be a way to go through it, but at the moment, Australia. Diane, hi, by the way, I did see you were on there. I'll give you a call tomorrow about your boy. He's doing really well. Diane's freezing for Australia. As Tullis said, we've just sent 2 big tanks full of semen out to Australia. That's gone out to be used this season, as the season's backwards out there. But yes, the EU, a little bit more tricky, I'm afraid. We are struggling. It's not our side, it's more the customs. So the customs are still struggling to work out what they actually want and agree on it. So every country we're exporting to in the EU has got a different set of customs regulations, and we're just coming up against delays there. We can get it through, but it's a delay at the moment.
We are, I think, anybody who are clients watching, we hopefully in January, February, we're going to be taking over a load of semen over there. We obviously got to do all the channels, but we're taking it over ourselves, which makes life a lot easier. It still gets through the port of checks. So we're thinking about exporting. Come January, February, I think we might be doing that.
Yeah, I think we need to
but
get
Pam
out.
Is the guru. She's got the paperwork and everything else you've gone through, but it's always changing. But it is getting better now, isn't it?
Yes, it's getting. We're going to get there. We'll beat it. But at the moment, bear with us if you've got an EU export you want it to go.
But I think you're on some panel now, and I think that hopefully things get moving a lot quicker. We've had one question come in, Desiree, saying, "What's your optimum age for freezing from a stallion?"
Once again, I didn't hear.
What would you say is the best age to freeze from a stallion?
Oh, as early as possible. Yeah, a younger stallion.
It's too early.
Yeah, not too early, of course. They have to be mature then, but but not at late. I prefer 4 or 5. Yeah, I like that. You, Bart?
Yeah, I try with 3. Most of the time, if they have done 1 season, then you give them a little bit of rest. Then most of the time they start to get really good, and then you can freeze.
What I've noticed, and I don't know whether you've done many different breeds. In the UK, we have a lot of rare breeds, so we have a lot of heavy breeds. We find that the Suffolk Punches, the Shires, the Cleveland Bays, for instance, those big, heavy, they take slightly longer to mature. The warm bloods, yes, I think, like you say, 3, 4, or 5. We find some of these heavier horses, they don't reach their sexual maturity to age of 5. So if they don't freeze very well at 3, we always say give them another year or so. We'd never write a stallion off at 3 because they might be slow maturers. But yes, as Desiree and Bart says, that's sort of 4, 5, and obviously, I like 6, 7, and 8 and going on. And then it tips over when they get into their late teens. something called testicular degeneration, which is just a broad term for the testicles not working so well. They start softening up a little bit. The semen quality can go off. What's the oldest stallion you've done, Bart?
29.
No, 31.
Have we done 31?
31-year-old Highland.
Did we?
Yes.
All right. I learned something new today. I didn't realise that.
It worked really well.
I tell you what.
Yes.
I mean, it must have come in on its wheelchair.
It was lovely. Just a quick
But you
question.
If they are that old, you can do in standing. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
Quick question. I've got somebody here who's written, my stallion covers naturally and has a really good success rate covering naturally. Does that mean he's going to freeze really well?
No.
Sorry?
No.
No. But I always say it's a good start. If they say they've got nothing in foal, well then it's even worse. But no, I always say it's never a foregone conclusion. It's never a certainty because there's so much other stuff attributes to whether the stallion's going to freeze. But it's always a good start because he's fertile
For sure.
at first. So that's always a good tick in my side.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you agree on that?
Yeah. I think I said no directly because the freezing and the natural covering for sure is a big difference. But if he's fertile and he makes everything pregnant, then for sure he will be freeze good. For quite sure. You have to do some tests, but at the end, I think the possibility that he will freeze good is quite high.
Yeah.
It is also important to note that semen looked amazing on the screen. There is always a chance it isn't going to work as well as we hope.
Yeah. So you can get very good quality semen post-thaw. I know we said we weren't going to talk about it very much, but motility is not everything. I'll let Desiree, you can explain. What else do you do when you're looking at
Viability. Viability is really the most important thing for fertile stallion. Then it's even better than motility because it's all, and even with freezing, you have to consider the membrane of the head. These ice crystals, they are so sharp, they can cut off all the membrane. They can damage the head of the semen cells. And if the membrane is not correctly, the stallion is not fertile. So the viability tells you everything about the fertility.
I couldn't, and I think you would echo that, wouldn't you? Or you would agree with that, wouldn't you, Bart? I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think viability. You cannot just take motilities, and obviously the 5-star fertility helps.
It's even so if the semen after freezing is looking under the microscope for the motility, something about 25 to 30, and the viability is more than 40. I'm quite sure he will make pregnancy.
Yeah.
In the opposite, it will not work.
Yeah.
In the opposite, if it looks like 50% and the viability is somewhere 25 to 30, for sure he will not make pregnancy.
Yeah. No, I quite agree on that.
Like a minimum of 45% viable.
Yes, exactly. So we're like minimum
How much?
45.
Minimum.
Yeah.
In the viability.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's high.
Yeah.
Yeah. We like. Wow. It's
35 and then 35. Up to that.
Yeah, we do 45, so 35% progressive with a 45% viability. So it's good freezing extender. That's what it is. You see, it never lets us down. That's right. And just all those people out there, we've had so many more from abroad. I have to say, I'm just selling ourselves. I know myself. I know we said it before. Bart, Desiree, myself, we love a good holiday abroad, don't we? So we love to go out to these places. Somebody rang me up yesterday from South Africa wanting to set up a lab. We always love meeting new people, setting up labs.
South Africa, Bart, that's a good idea.
Priscilla,
that's a beautiful country.
Yeah, somebody from Ireland, Priscilla.
Yeah. Send you off to Connemara.
Brilliant. So I think we've given you a very brief, we've got a really, really good presentation now to go through a lot of what we've got now. So we can carry on answering. Have I missed anything out, Pam? Because I always miss something out.
We're going to cover it all upstairs.
We're going to cover it all upstairs. Just check my crib sheet. Oh, we might have another poll. Have we got another poll?
We're going to do the poll on the way upstairs.
Yeah, I mean, what's the next poll, Amy? Is it, have you ever frozen from your stallion? I think that was it, yeah. So if you've got a stallion and you've never frozen from, well, yeah.
The final poll is, would you consider freezing off your stallion having learnt what you've learnt today?
Right, okay, yeah, cool. Have you put that on? And then we will wander upstairs and we'll see you just in a couple of minutes. Well, literally 2 minutes. Don't go away.
Hello from Japan.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, from Japan.
Japan, that's really amazing.
I think that's our first one from Japan. So, hello from, yes, yeah. That's great to be joining us. So, right, I'm going to try and share the screen now, if I can. Can you see that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Right. I'll just make that. I've just had somebody from Japan, Pam.
Oh, yes.
Oh, what's the poll results, actually? Let's have a look at the poll results. Can you put them up? Would you consider freezing? Yeah, that's good. So no one has said no. So that's good. So everybody said they would consider it. Brilliant.
We're here 7 days a week if you want to call.
Yeah.
So going back on to this, we've got a bit more to go through. If you keep an eye on those, Pam, as well, the questions coming in. So what is semen freezing? How does semen freezing work? I have to thank for doing this presentation, Lucy, for doing this presentation. Thank you. I have to get that one in. She put this together. How do we freeze? Some of the myths associated with frozen semen, the more trickier stallions, and some of the things that we're doing here, latest deals. We have to thank NAF for their 5-star fertility. We really believe this can make a difference. It was been doing 2 years of trials, and we've been using it fully last year. And ideally, the stallions want to be on it a couple of months beforehand, before you see the true results. But we've seen some great differences on certain stallions. So I think when you get into semen freezing, you've really got to look what is cryopreservation side. We can't see you, Pam, in here, so that's all right. We've got to have you in here. Come on. So what is cryopreservation? We've got to understand that liquid nitrogen is minus 196. That's pretty cold. That is. Cells are suspended in animation and then can be thawed out. So what does it take to successfully? And as we spoke to, I think it was Bart initially, we were asking, about where does it all start? Well, we all know it starts in the stables, really here. And it doesn't just start in the lab. So Stallion Management, and we did a whole webinar about Stallion Management, is absolutely critical to really produce that semen quality at the end of the day. You can't just rely on sometimes dragging them out of field and expecting them to collect and have good quality. Yes, a lot of stallions you can do that. There's a lot more going into it. And it's all about the preparation, washing the AVs, what type of AVs you use. Do they like that? Washing the stallion down beforehand. Lab preparation as well, making sure everything's absolutely ready for the semen. And obviously how you handle and collect off that stallion in the collection area, how you filter that semen, whether you put extender in there, and so on. So there's plenty of different ways we see why we want to freeze semen. I'd say most of your ways, virtually all your stallions, Bart, are pretty much just competition stallions, aren't they? That's the main reason you're doing it. So you can, is it because you can ship the semen abroad, or is it an insurance policy, or a bit of everything?
Yeah, we freeze because a few reasons. First, we cannot ship chilled semen to America, for example, or to Australia. So that the chilled stuff we can only use in Germany, Holland, Denmark, a few countries around. But if it's going farther away, you need freezing stuff. If the stallions are on shows and they are not for collecting, you need some freezing stuff in the tank to inseminate the mares. That's one of the reasons. Some people freeze, especially some dressage people freeze, because they don't want to use the stallion during the dressage time that they go shows, that they just have some freezing stuff, and in the other part they can do shows. So, and then, yeah, there's a lot of stuff why you freeze.
Yeah, can I ask that question?
This one at the bottom?
Yeah.
Yeah, I always say invest in the future. I think that's the best thing. You can ship it worldwide, and you can use mares all over the world with frozen semen. And I think that's for every stallion owner. It's why you freeze.
Yeah. Yeah, Pam, what are you going to say?
Oh, okay, so, it's been answered live. Thank you very much, Amy. Aileen had asked a question saying, we're too far away for me to send my stallion to Glasgow. I would consider freezing knowing that he's stress-free and had a year off competing. Might this be the ideal time?
Yeah, so this is definitely.
This is the time.
This is, as Bart was alluding to, this is the time of the year, the best quality. We find it's the best ejaculates.
Yeah.
And yes, and as Desiree said, it's an insurance policy. I hate to sort of say the words, we're insurance people, but you are, if anything happens to that animal and you haven't got its genetics frozen down, so many people kick themselves. So yes, it's preserving for the future, it's preserving for these competition horses, and also preserving for these rare endangered species. You can see this magnificent Suffolk punch here. There's only about 73 or 74 females left in the country and about 400 left in the world. So we have different ways of preserving them when we're doing this. So very much, yes, the competition horses, and also you can when you geld them, you can actually do something called epididymal sperm extraction. We could just do a webinar on that one night, maybe, just to how we do that, because that's quite a novel way. And I know Bart and Desiree, you do a bit of epididymal, don't you, Desiree? Yeah, you quite like it.
Yeah, this year was crazy with epididymal sperm. It was really crazy. It was also after the stallion curing, and then some stallions who are not that easy.
Desiree, if we carry on, can you just explain just very, very, very quickly what epididymal sperm extraction involves?
Well, epididymal sperm extraction, the stallion is going to be castrated, and then we try out of the testicles, we're going to save the semen, and we're going to freeze that. It's fantastic work, actually. It's a little bit strange, but it works fantastic. We can save really the semen after castration. It must be within 12 hours. It must be on the station then. Cool.
24.
And
24.
20. Oh yeah, I prefer 12, but that's that depends. But and then you can save the semen, and it's really amazing sometimes what you see, because whenever you get it out and you put it under a microscope, it's almost lying still, and you really are in shock because it's the last time that you can do. And then you put a little bit extender in it, and they start to move, and they start to move a little bit faster. It's fascinating to see it, and it's amazing sometimes how many straws you can get out of the testicles.
And it works best really with the DMF or the amide extenders out there. So no, because there are some good extenders out there, and I think it's evolved over the years. So no, because people might not realize, but it does work as a last resort.
Yeah, because maybe some people or some clients who are listening right now, and they have the stallion by the rider, and the rider said, okay, the stallion is actually not easy to ride. We had to do something. We have to castrate it because I can't handle him anymore. And then some people are choosing for chemical castration. Well, I'm quite sure that Bart, because we talked about it a lot, please don't do this, because it's really 9 out of 10. It's not coming out good. So if you have to decide at that time, okay, we're going to castrate this stallion, do then epididymal sperm, or try to collect him before that. But epididymal sperm is then a good option for castration, after castrations.
Yeah, definitely. We do a lot of that. So, right. The other reason, obviously, we talked about is the export side, as obviously it means that you can reach other markets out there. The world is a very small place now, so it means we can export semen pretty much all over the world. And we've seen a big increase last year. We virtually had our record exports. This is in 2020, I think it was. We did 6,500 straws to 23 different countries with a value of about 4.1 million. Well, back in, that was 2020, back in 2012, we did £75,000 worth of exports, I think, to about 6 different countries. So you can see how it's grown over the years. Yeah. Right, Pam. I didn't realize you had this one. I put a few slides. Well, you got a question, did you?
No, I've got a question. I hope I pronounce this, but Ada Cole, can we get our services to Nigeria? I'm sure Tullis would certainly look into that for you.
Yeah, I'd love a trip to Nigeria, definitely. Yeah, on my way to South Africa. Yeah, definitely. We can do some rhinos and elephants at the same time.
Oh, God.
So Pam's briefly touched about this. Is obviously Brexit and exporting. There has been new changes going on. Believe it or not, we were before Brexit, we were exporting double the amount of semen than we were importing, which is always a shock to me. I always thought loads more was coming in than going out. So things have changed. Just so it's not too confusing for people on this, Pam, because I know it's a very confusing subject. Can you just explain a little bit about this? Because there might be, I know a lot of people watching from abroad, so it really, it doesn't matter to them too much, but the people in the UK might want to know about exporting.
So this is exporting to Europe. This doesn't include USA, Australia and the third countries, but the main changes since Brexit is that the party in Finland, Germany, whoever's importing the semen will need to be EORI registered. They'll need to generate a CHED-P, which is almost like an import notification at their end. And then the semen has to travel with commercial invoices, which, to be fair, the courier companies generally do, but you do have to be careful with the values you put on there. And then there just are huge custom delays. I know that Germany are a bit backlogged again. Then importing, you've got this side, we want the person who's importing the semen to be EORI registered. We would raise an IPAF for you. So an IPAF is the notification that the semen is going to come, but we need to put that in before the semen leaves, as the exporting stud in, say, Bart, would have to raise the IPAF, they'd have to raise the health paper with the number that the IPAF generates, so the UNN number. Again, commercial invoice, and there are customs delays, but nowhere near as bad as going out of the country. Importing has been quite good actually this year.
So I think we sent something to you, Bart, and it took about 2 months to get through, didn't it?
That wasn't
even more, but that is not your fault. That is just because the German toll, they couldn't find the EORI number, and then they say, oh, it's not so important, we wait till we have time, and then it takes a lot of time. But finally, thank you, I get it.
So coming on to more about the freezing side, it has changed a lot in 20 years. I think the first foal that was ever born was back in 1953 by frozen semen, and that was from actually epididymal sperm that was frozen down. So but in the last, we've been freezing semen for 25 years, and we've seen a huge change in how we freeze semen to get the best results of it. And we're always trying to continue and develop, and we actually have a working group ourselves with Desiree and Bart and a few other people, and we're very, very open about our skills, always trying to make things better.
Can I comment on this? Because I really, I had a discussion for a couple of weeks ago. When I first learned about frozen semen, it was actually from Equitechnique in France. They come over to Holland, and I worked at the stud farm in Holland, and they want to freeze in for the first time. Somebody from France come over because they have very good results. And then we learn, and then we talked about more than 20 years ago that we learned that we catch the semen and we're going to extend it and we cool it down for 1 hour, and then we're going to centrifugate it, and then we put it in the straws, and then you put it within a curve and you're going to freeze. But and that's what you say, because it developed in the 20 years, and right now, and I'm quite sure that Bart and you, Tullis, agree with me, it's much better to centrifugate it directly, because you want to get rid of the seminoplasma on a longer period, and even for frozen. So collect the stallion, centrifugate it directly. Don't wait for an hour to stand there in in the extender. Just centrifugate it directly, and then afterwards cooling down. I think that's the better, and I think that's really improved. That's the best improving in this 20 years. Don't you agree, Bart?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the development of freezing extenders
Yeah, of course.
I think that's the big thing. So yeah, like Desiree says, collect, assess, extend, centrifuge, remove that seminal plasma, re-extend, extract the band, re-extend it a freezing extender, print the straws, chill for 25 minutes. This depends whether obviously you're using DMF or glycerol, and then freeze the semen and then plunge into liquid nitrogen. Why do we chill the semen before freezing? Any ideas? Do we think this? It's an important stage of the freezing process. So when we chill it down, and this is what Desiree was talking about before. This is the real critical stage, and I think this is where we can change whether we can freeze that semen sometimes better or worse. Is that sort of important water balance between the inside and the outside of the sperm cell, and this is what we have to sort of understand. By freezing semen, at minus 196, the cells, pretty much just switch off but not destroyed. But if we don't add a cryoprotectant, the membranes will literally rupture and break. And then there is a rapid thaw at 30 seconds for 37 degrees, and they're literally reawoken when we do this. So we always have to, I always think of when you're thinking how this works, if you think of your frozen pipes in the winter time, what happens if you don't put insulation around them? They literally just swell and break. And exactly the same happens to a sperm cell or a tissue sample that we're freezing or an embryo or anything like that. If it would literally just swell and rupture and break. So water expands when it's frozen. So therefore there has to be a sort of a balance between the water inside and outside of the sperm. And you can see on this diagram at room temperature when it's frozen down, and if it's slowly cooled, the cell can adjust nicely. If it's rapid or freezes straight away, it can actually rupture and break. And once water is, it's amazing how strong water is. In a liquid, when it's frozen, it can actually break rock. That's how it really can when it starts freezing. So how do we get around this? We've spoken about this quite a bit. Is cryoprotectants is what we use in freezing extender. We use the same in cells and things like that. Using the cryoprotectant is a substance that prevents the freezing of tissues and damage to cells during that freezing process. And it's a complicated but straightforward process. All we're doing is getting that cell, and you could say sort of dehydrating it slightly so it permeates. And I might be wrong on this. I don't know what you think, Desiree, but I think that the glycerol permeates the cell a little bit slower, whereas DMF maybe does, and the water exchanges a little bit quicker with the DMF. That's why you need those longer periods of time. But it is so important at this earlier stage to that equilibrium stage from the water, basically going backwards and forwards, and with the extender. The extender can make a big difference to whether it works well or not.
Yeah, and I agree, because DMF you have to freeze in also within 20 minutes, because otherwise the cell dries out. And I think that's
someone's asked a question: what conception rates do we have? We're going to come on to that actually in a minute, aren't we? Yes. So that's actually it. We're going to talk about some interesting conception rates. You'll see in a minute, Desiree, actually some interesting papers. And I must admit we are pushing it, but I really believe this is one of the best freezing extenders on the market that we do, and we call it liquid gold because it makes us look good. We can freeze more stallions and freeze them. The viability is better as well. It's not just the progressive motility, and we've done a lot of research on this extender, and we've literally just spent I think it's about 45,000 on a PhD project, really trying to make it even better. And we're just coming to the end of that PhD, and that's some of the work that we were just talking about earlier, Desiree and Bart, about we're trying to use egg-based or animal-based products, but the results are just coming through from that after 3 years. So hopefully we'll have it even better still with a bit of luck. We will see. So not every stallion freezes will tolerate the freezing process, as we discussed before. Just because they get mares involved naturally does not mean they're going to freeze. It can be sometimes expensive, but obviously, and some mares can react to frozen semen. So there are challenges, and not every vet is trained to use frozen semen. And it's the timing as well is more critical when the mare has to be inseminated. So some of the myths around it, frozen semen doesn't work. Well, that's incorrect. Yes, it does work, but some of the people out there saying, well, they just had very, very bad luck. I think it does come down to having, how much do you think, Bart, the vet plays a part in whether this is going to work or not, or the person that's doing the AI in this? Just be careful, because there may be a lot of vets watching.
Please. No, I think the vet is, if the semen quality is normal good and it's free for selling, so then it's good, then the vet is more than 80%. The not the vet, the management of the mare.
We're going to come on to that in a minute. I'm glad you said that, Bart, but it's something very interesting to show you in a minute. Yeah.
I think that's the important thing.
Yeah. So other myths, I don't know whether you've heard of this. Do people ever talk to you? Maybe in the UK they do. Desiree, do you ever hear that people say you shouldn't use frozen semen on maiden mares?
Yeah. The discussion goes here as well.
Yes. And incorrect. We use a lot of frozen semen on maiden mares, but I'll go on to the maiden mare thing in a minute. You may think differently, but
the only thing I would not use frozen semen is in a foal heat.
No,
we don't use frozen semen in a foal heat, but at the end, it doesn't matter if it's a maiden mare or not.
Yeah. And Neve Lewis very much did this paper with Monica Morganti. I don't know whether any of them are watching tonight. And Neve looked at a lot of the work that we've done here. We don't do as many mares as Shockmother does. I think we don't even do a 20% as much. But looked at the records of 1,000 insemination cycles and about 600 mares roughly analysed over 3 years, and just crunch the data looking at all that, because it's great when you've got everything in one place rather than looking at 4 different places. You can really look at that data and analyze it and see how good or bad, or where the differences are. And when we looked at there was so much results came from this paper. I'll have to send it over to you, Desiree. It's quite interesting. It showed that actually, well, in this there's very little, but there was actually that the frozen semen actually achieved very slightly better pregnancy rates per cycle than the chilled. I always think I like the frozen semen because in the theory, the frozen semen should always be pretty good.
Yeah, you are you inseminate one time, you're very close to the ovulation, and you only put a small amount into the mare, because how large the amount what you put in the mare, you always get reaction on that. So I prefer to have frozen. Yeah.
And the semen at the end is only maybe 2 or 3 hours old. And if I ship chilled semen, I collect in the morning at 6, and then I send it around, and then it coming in the owner's place the next day in 8, and his vet is coming at 12, and then they do insemination. Then the semen is already about 24 or 30 hours old, and the frozen stuff, it's 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
So it's very, very full of energy.
You're right, and obviously with chilled semen, you are reliant on that ejaculate of that day. Don't get me wrong, a lot of stallions produce very good semen every day, but sometimes it might not be the best. Whereas frozen semen, it should be at that standard. Yes, you've got to be close.
Yeah.
And what's quite interesting about this study, there was no differences in pregnant results between the problem mares and maiden mares between chilled and frozen semen. But where they saw this was purely from the fact, and it's what Bart was saying, is that when you get a problem mare, there's so much more you can do with lavaging and everything else. So much more work went on with the problem mare, and they actually see very little results, differences between the problem mare and the other mares, which was, I always thought was, because I thought you're bound to see with the older maiden mare and things like that, you were going to have worse results, but actually you did more work with them. So it was quite an interesting paper on that. Someone's asked, do sort of post-breeding endometritis, is it the effect of the extender? Is it the effect of the removal of seminal plasma? I think maybe he's asked that. What do you think that is? So when mares flare up a little bit when you inseminate them, Desiree, what do you think that is sometimes?
We give AI courses every year, and we get the same question also every year. I think it's also a little bit difficult because I really believe that some mares are always reacting on insemination. Some are reacting on the extender. Yeah, I think that is. Seminal plasma, it's more like a protection from the semen when you go into the mare. So I don't believe that many, but I think it's more some in the extender, but it's a little bit like a discussion. It's not like every mare is going to react on extender, because that's not true.
I agree.
Yeah, I think some does, but I don't believe every mare is going to react on extender.
I think a mare who is going to react doesn't matter why.
Yeah.
But she has a problem by her own.
Yeah.
A healthy, good managed mare will not react on extender, because the extenders for 25, 30 years, the extender was not that good as it today. Today, the extender is clean. It's with everything done. So, and we use less extender for insemination. So I get a lot of mares, they come here and say, it's only natural semen because she's reacting. Then we say, yes, we do. And they get a pregnant mare, but just with normal semen.
Yeah.
And extender. But they are happy because the mare is pregnant.
Yeah. So I think,
I think this is the problem of the mare and not of this extender.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Someone's just put on there, I think the pregnancy rate of chilled semen, it's Razor. So it should be less than 43%. This is just basically this paper that was written. So we're only taking off what this paper is written. This is not what we're saying, but this is what this paper was written by. Maiden mares, there's always this myth around maiden mares. The only thing I can say with maiden mares, they're an unknown quantity, you could say. So I think you don't know whether they're fertile or infertile. It's a bit like bringing a stallion into the breeding shed. Is he going to be the best one? You don't know that until you collect off them. You don't know that until you put in there. And I think sometimes with maiden mares, yes, it's an environment that obviously has enough semen in, and sometimes, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong on this, but sometimes the maiden mare can get a little bit more reaction, especially the first time. But we find we have, just as you saw, just as good results with them as many of the other mares that we were AI. This can happen with all types of not just frozen semen, exactly what Bart was saying. Yes, this is not just a frozen semen issue, and frozen semen can induce more reaction on some mares than others, but generally no higher reaction than fresh or chill. And this is a mare, I think that you were saying, Bart, this is a mare related issue, you think?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
I'm quite sure.
Do you think the semen quality declines with age? With new freezing techniques and technologies. I don't know what you think. I haven't seen it. I think years ago we just freeze semen differently, but not necessarily. There was years ago they said it used to decline by maybe a few % a year. I don't know. What do you think on this, Desiree? Do you think it changes?
Whenever it's frozen, you mean? Whenever it's in the tank? Well, if it's liquid to nicotine is always correct in there, and there is no that the tank is always full, and I don't believe it, because I saw a 25-year-old semen was frozen, and it was still looking good. So no. That's
I,
right.
I think you're right. Yeah.
It also makes pregnancy. It's not only looking good, it makes pregnancy.
Yeah,
That's
the only thing, and Bart will agree that with me, you had those long straws, you know, with this little bit air inside,
Yeah.
and buttons on the end that you have to wear glasses because they're going everywhere. Yeah, God, that was really. But yeah, it's still working, but it has to stay under the liquid nitrogen. Sometimes you can. How to say that? You can see that sometimes the plastic is a little bit like, we call it porous. I don't know how you say that in English. It's a little bit sensitive, more that they gonna break more. That you have to be careful in that. But no, it's working fine.
So yeah, so you agree as well, but it doesn't decline.
No, exactly.
No, that's it. So yeah, so it does not decline with age. So does froze decline with age? No, it doesn't. So it pretty much it stays suspended in animation. So 5, 10, 20, 40 years, in theory, 1,000 years, it will be as good as the day it was frozen. Myth, what's this one? May evolve because some semen. Yes, basically, I think where some people see this is because many years ago we did have different freezing techniques, and like Desiree explained, different types of straws and different types of mediums. And semen now is frozen much better than it originally was, so it should be obviously stay the same. Some we do get difficult stallions that won't freeze. Obviously that happens. I think they're getting smaller and smaller, these stallions, because we're finding different ways of freezing these stallions. There's lots more in the cupboard that we haven't talked about tonight, actually, what we can do to freeze these stallions. We've literally just scraped the surface of what we can do. So it can be low post-thaw progressive motility, low post-thaw viability, high abnormalities, and poor conception rates. I mean, quite often, if you've got sort of a lot of abnormalities in the ejaculate, I don't know, these ones are quite difficult to rectify, but you've got to understand why that's there. Is that a management issue, or is that a stallion issue? And that's what we come on to this. If it's a genetic infertility, it's virtually cannot be resolved by the freezing. However, non-genetic causes, obviously, these we can actually hopefully turn these around. Do you agree with this, Bart? Some of these ones, there's a lot we can do to help these stallions.
We can do a lot, but at the end, we never can say we can freeze every stallion.
No,
that's the problem.
But do you think you can freeze from when how long have you been freezing for, Bart?
20 years.
I feel like it's about 200 years you've been freezing now, you've been non-stop. But do you think like 10 years ago, you can certainly freeze more stallions than you can now than you could 10 years ago, would you say?
I think for 10 years, I freeze not that much stallions. Yeah, maybe for 10 years, I don't know so much about it like I know now. Now we work more. For 10 years, we did more easy stuff, not so much looking at everything. In the end, they were pregnant or not. We looked at the motility, but not at everything else. Now we know a lot more, so we look at a lot more. Viability and all this stuff helps us a lot, and therefore we can do a lot more with other stallions or difficult stallions. But at the end, if the stallion don't want to freeze, I have one stallion I don't know how to do. We will talk about it. I will show you. The viability is really high, but I get no movement, no motility, nothing. I don't know what to do. So at the end, if it don't work, it don't work. I don't know how I can say. I didn't.
Can we see him next week? We could try him next week. Let's see what we can do.
Yeah.
But no, and Desiree, you've been doing this for 20 years now, and you must have seen. There must be stallions now that you can freeze that you couldn't have frozen.
Yeah, I agree with Bart. For 10 years ago, you have a protocol for freezing, and you hold on this. And right now there are so many things what you can do. You can use for difficult stallions. You can use Equipure. The technique is changed. You can use without centrifugation that you take with the sperm filter to take all the seminal plasma away. There are so many things what you can do to improve the semen, and you think out of the box. You know, it's not one protocol what you have to freeze. Sometimes when it's not working, then you try other things, and you can, yeah, even what Bart say, you learn in those years so much, and I think it's still developing. And I think, yeah, we still doesn't know anything. We know a little bit more, but I think there is going to be maybe in 10 years that we say, okay, I wish that we had to know this for 10 years ago. That's the same like where we are right now. I wish that what we do right now, that I knew it for 10 years ago, then I could help those stallions what I know now. Yeah.
No, definitely. I think it's a big difference. Yeah, like for instance, we never really fed feed supplements 10 or 15 years ago, or 20 years ago. So now we know that these can really help, and we understand how the cell works, and you know, adding things like essential fatty acids can make a big difference. But as I say, it's got to be on them really 6 to 8 weeks to really to see any benefit, and also supports libido as well. So yeah, we're going to speak about other, I'm only going to briefly touch on this, but we learned this a bit from the canine side, doing a 2-step freeze. Bart spoke about this before, how adding your freezing medium very slowly to let the semen equilibrate when it's been getting used to the semen. Something else you can try, what's called a 2-step freeze, where we actually add a freezing extender to the semen with no cryoprotectant in it. And then about an hour and a half later, we actually drip feed in the semen extender with the cryoprotectant in, and it's called a 2-step freeze. It works very well in the canine world, and we find it works very well with the tricky stallions. We certainly don't do this on all of them. You've used this. You quite like this method, don't you, Desiree?
Yeah, I like it because you can freeze more stallions in at the same time, because if you use your freezing extender, you have to freeze within 20 minutes. If you do it like this in 2 steps, you can collect them all, centrifugate, extend it without the cryoprotector, and then wait two steps, and then wait before filling the straws, and then you do drop-wise your freezing extender, and it's really good. But it's if you have the concentration is very high. Say you have for 20 ml and the concentration is about the 300, split it then in 3 tubes, not in 2, but I prefer to split it in 2 tubes, and then for 2 cc or something like that to add it then, and then before filling the straws, then do the freezing extender. I prefer that it's not too concentrated in this smaller amount. That is what my opinion is right at this moment, what I tried. But I really like it. I don't know what is yours. Do you do the same, or if it's very concentrated, how extended do you do after the 2-step?
I think we pretty much do 50-50 each time, don't we? So in other words, if we just say it's quite concentrated, you've got to add, for instance, 10 mils and 10 or 20 mils of freezing extender. We'd add 10 mils without, leave it for an hour and a half, and add the other 10 mils an hour and a half later.
Yeah. Okay.
But we're just about to publish some results on that. So as I say here, it's but we don't do this on many stallions. We do it on a few. Have you done it on? You do it on a few, don't you, Bart? I think you tried it as well.
Yeah. I tried this for a few stallions. I used also with this extender, and then for some stallions who are not that super good, I did in the 2-step like what you do here, and then the results for especially the viability and the motility were about 10 to 15% better.
Yeah.
It likes
so all you lot out there all over the world looking at this, you've seen it all. You know, there's a whole new method out there, freezing semen, the 2-step.
2-step,
You learned it here first.
It's not for all. The good stallions you can do in once, but
exactly.
in everything, the good stallions you can make a lot of mistakes and they're still working.
Yeah.
And what about cryoprotectants? I'll be interested. So for some stallions, the post-thaw viability is okay, but post-thaw, some of it's low. Do you alter the, I mean, we use obviously DMF most of the time. Do you alter the cryoprotectant sometimes, maybe to 3.5% or lower it to 2.5% or keep it at 3%? Or Desiree,
Well,
do you
if you use glycerol, don't go higher than 2.5%, because I don't like that, because I believe that glycerol on a higher percent is a little bit toxic to the semen. And I think with the DMF, I think it's not higher than 3%, isn't it? I don't know, whatever you use.
We've done some actually at 3.5. We've had the odd stallion that just wasn't working. We've upped the percentage, and we have seen on the odd stallion that it can help. Yeah, so it's worth sometimes just trying that one.
Yeah, so a little bit higher.
Very rare, very rare.
You can even have some stallions who need both.
Yeah.
But at the end, not more than, if you use both, at the end, not more than 3.5 to at least 4%.
Yeah, we've never gone over.
We've never gone over 4%. I agree.
No.
Whereas I think with the elephant side, we go up to about 5 or 6%. So.
You do?
Yeah. And I
But
think,
is it not the same with the bull sides? Is that also not very higher?
Yeah, the bull semen is high as well. So so yeah, I think there's different concentrations for different animals. Yeah, and the rate of temperature decline. Sorry, Lucy's put these together, so some of these slides I'm still looking at myself. So the rate of temperature decline for the freezing process is critical to the ejaculate quantity. Determines the rate of extended semen for, so how we freeze the semen in the freezing process and going from a liquid to a solid. I think we spoke about this before, actually, whether we do a rapid freeze, or optimal freeze, or a slow freeze. And this varies, obviously, from, we tend to, like we were saying before, carry on with the same freezing curve, I have to admit, every single day. We very, very rarely change. And I think you were saying the same, weren't you, Bart? It's very much the same with that. And this is the point of crystallization is here, is where the, it's about -10 usually, where it shoots up. Yeah. But how quickly do you freeze yours?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. So yeah, we're a bit longer.
From 4 degrees to -140.
Yeah.
It's about, not exactly, it's, I think 4.3 or something like this.
Yeah.
But less 5 minutes.
Yeah, we're 9 minutes 33.
But that's with this iCube for Minitube.
Yeah.
I using the
IMV.
IMV. He's a little bit faster.
Yeah. And you can lose the floating racks, as we talked about. And actually, we've had some good results with this. So I say generally not as good as the standard as Desiree was saying with the if you've got a digit cooled freezer, but it's great when you're out in the field, or if you can't carry them around, it can work very, very well.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, it works very, very good, but it works, I prefer to do it with very good semen, because if you have a subfertile stallion who's a little bit difficult to freeze, I really prefer the curve, because you can control it a little bit better for the ice crystals. Because -4 till -20, that's the most critical point for the semen. That's the most temperature difference what they have to expose. And then you have to go through that fast, because otherwise you can cut off the membrane. And you don't want to have that. And that's why with good stallions, it works fantastic. And with subfertile stallions, I prefer the curve.
No, definitely. We've got one question come in. Do the post-store percentages drop considerably as the age increases, even if the raw percentages are still good? Yeah, it can, because the membrane may be not as good as it was then. I don't know what I think it varies massively from stallion to stallion. We've spoken about today, we've frozen stallions in their late 20s, and we've seen some stallions in their mid-teens drop off. We actually some in the early teens, we can start to see them not working as well. So I think it's such a stallion issue, this, but generally in their late teens and 20s, the semen is never as good. So you've got to try and do it as early as you can, as Desiree was saying, when they're younger as they can. We've got a few. Amy, can you get ready to pick a result for us? Are is there someone down there? If you can randomly pick somebody, ideally not too far away, because it costs us an awful lot of money. but no, I think you've got to randomly pick someone. We're sure we can post it out anywhere. So we can send all this NAF stuff to them, would be great. We have this mini freeze deal for first time freezers. So for under £1,000, they get 20 doses and 5 days delivery and 4 semen freezing collections. And also we run collection courses where you can actually come and learn how to collect off your stallions, off the stallions here. So it's quite daunting collecting off a stallion for the first time. Yeah, so that's what we charge for that. And I know Bart and Desiree and myself, if there's, we always go to people's places as well and teach them. We do a whole summer's sort of gift as well, package. Thank you, Pam. That's the word I was trying to get out. Of £4,000. So if anybody's interested in standing the stallion here for the whole summer, we do a package for you where we do full livery and everything else. It's called
90 days of summer.
90 days of summer. And obviously we've got our other semen freezing. Obviously, is just in a summary, is an amazing way to indefinitely preserve your stallion's breeding potential for many years to come. And a choice of different freezing, choice of freezing center is obviously very important to make sure you're getting the best quality when that's been semen, it's been frozen. We have other things here. We have the Elite Kennel Fertility, which is freezing dog semen. We actually exported, and I think we got some puppies born in New Zealand the other day, all the way out there. So that was pretty good. And the home of Gemini Genetics, we've got a very interesting story about to hit the press, hopefully this Sunday. Yeah, I think so. Watch out for that if in the Daily Telegraph, about a very interesting press release coming out from that. So that's very exciting too. And so this is the home of genetic preservation, and obviously Nature's Safe. So if you've enjoyed tonight and you've got a spare fiver floating around, Nature's Safe would love to have some of it'd be great to have a donation towards that. It's literally biobanking, freezing animal tissue samples down, so we can literally bring it back to life. We have got another webinar on the 3rd of November, which I think this is going to be, so we've got such cool stuff going on this one. You're going to see cells from animals that you've never seen before. We've been doing some quite cool stuff just this week, thawing and growing cells from animals that died 2 or 3 years ago, skin cells, and how we can regenerate those animals, how we can bring them back to life pretty much through cloning, through changing their cell structure to produce sperm and egg. It's really interesting science on the preservation side, and how we can cryopreserve tissue samples that's literally we can bring them back. Have you got the rest of the storyboard there, Pam, or is that no? But I think we can thank our sponsors at NAF for sponsoring tonight. But really my biggest thank you is to 2 great pals, and I'm going to see you next week, which is brilliant. Mark Kools from Shocker Mothers, who I don't know how many years we've known each other, but it's been a long time. But we're always so open about how we freeze semen, and I think it's that openness that's made both of us being able to really push it forward and make better freezing. And Desiree, well, I've known you for many years, and you're a fountain of knowledge. 20 years you've been collecting and freezing semen, and I have to admit your wealth of knowledge and what you bring to the party is just outstanding, and it really does make a difference having other people. They don't want to listen to me all the time anyway, they want to listen to other people. So thank you for doing that. I just see if there's any other questions, and just thank you everybody else for listening. I'll just see if I can stop the sharing for a second. Let's just see on here. Right. Is there any other questions come in, Pam? Because we have, amazingly,
Daniel has asked, what's the difference in results from deep AI to normal AI? So DUI to just a normal AI using frozen semen?
Sandro Barboncini done some research, and I think he did I think it was over 1,000 mares. It was huge, and didn't see a huge amount of difference on it. I think it depends on the amount of semen you're putting in. It depends on the issues of the mare. But most people with frozen semen do a DUI. And they do notice it. Whether it's a 5% difference. What do you think the difference is, Desiree, in doing a deep in uterine as opposed to inseminating into the body of the uterus?
Is it better?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it's better because it's a shorter distance what they have to travel, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think especially when you're talking with small amounts of semen, I think it makes a big difference, the DUI on that. So.
Yeah, me also.
And last question. How do you decide on how many straws per dose? What makes up a dose?
I think we spoke about this before. We looked at the I do it differently to Bart. I think Bart, if I'm right in saying, you look at the quality of it, and if it looks really good.
After freezing 48 hours, I tow 2 straws, and then I measure, make them together in one Epididymal, and then I'm measuring the total per ml. Then I look at the motility and at the viability, and then I count that I get at least 300 million progressive sperms. So it should be normally free because I did the freezing stuff for 3 or 4. But if it's at the end after towing and make the control, it can be 4, 5, 6. But I make it so that the one dose is about 300 million progressive semen, good movement semen.
Yeah, and a lot of thank yous coming in. Thank you. Is it Reza? Yeah, you've added a lot tonight. You were talking about no heritable genetic effects can be increased by the procedure, but epigenetic effects should be minimized. So you've given some. Thanks for adding to the webinar. We really appreciate that. Someone's put brilliant as usual. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody, for their time and producing the webinar tonight. So we do love your comments. It makes a big difference to us when we're doing this. Oh, thank you from Brazil. So Sylvia, thank you. I'm glad you're watching all the way over there. And Claire Skinner is the winner of the NAF 5-star fertility and goodie bag. So that will wing its way to you. Hopefully in the next few days. So thank you, NAF and 5-star for sponsoring tonight. Thank you for Amy down below. I've got to thank this lady here, Pam. She's really put this together.
What do you do without her? I don't believe you can work without her, isn't it?
No,
you can.
No.
Oh, and
we wheel him out sometimes.
Oh, Amy's going to share her screen. Go on, share your screen, Amy. I don't know. What am I going to see now?
I don't want to know.
And she says she's going to share a screen. Save the date. I think save the date for the next webinar on the 3rd of November, which I think this is going to be quite a cool webinar, this one. So, thank you for Colombia. You're going out. Is it Colombia where you're going, Bart?
Yeah.
Yeah. Danielle, is it?
Daniel.
Yeah.
Daniel Meyer.
Says thank you from Colombia. So. Might be somebody else you can visit out there, Bart, when you're out.
Yeah. We'll see.
So as always, not so many people on, but a lot of different countries. So, and the winner, yes, the 5-star winner for that. So thank you very much. And I think this is the first webinar we've done under 2 hours. So you over in Germany and Holland, you can get to bed a little bit earlier tonight. So it's always runs on a bit late. So really, just to finish off, thank you everybody for watching. Thank you, Bart and Desiree. Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Etienne.
It was a pleasure. Me too.
And Amy behind the scenes. So good night from all of us. All right.
Thank you.
Care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.